Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the Odyssey podcast, where we explore the journeys of people through life and business. I'm your host, Jeremy Molly. Our very first guest up today is a great man by the name of Laurance Romano. Now, Laurence is the owner of the Romano's Pizzeria franchise, which was established 7 years ago. It has 2 pizzerias over in the northern suburbs, and it's home to some of the finest pizza in all of Perth. But of course, all this didn't happen overnight, and that's why we've got Laurence here today to speak with him. Laurence, thanks for coming in to speak with me.
No worries.
So before we get started talking about what you're up to in this stage of the business, let's actually go back to where you started. So after high school, you trained up to become a chef, and before beginning Romano's, you were fully qualified by that point. What actually drove you to that profession?
Yeah, well, I did a lot of cooking classes in school. It was one of my main subjects, you could say. Not necessarily maths, English, and spelling, you can definitely say. When I was in my cooking class, it was something that I really sort of enjoyed. I love to eat. I love to cook food. When I was in year 10, I had a job just up in a local restaurant, and there I was doing 20 hours a week after school and on weekends, and I could see how much money I was earning working in this job, and from there that just pushed me forward even more. I didn't finish year 10. I actually left halfway through because I had this desire to cook and be a chef, and then I always wanted to sort of own my own business.
So it sort of began at a pretty young age for you.
Yeah. I mean, I probably 8, 9, I was working in a fish and chip shop a couple nights a week, and I still remember getting paid every week. I used to hide the money in my drawer because I always wanted the money for pocket money on the weekends. I could go out with my friends, can buy what I want. When you work and earn money, you can have the things you want in life.
Going from that, you said you even from a young age, you thought that it would be great to have your own business. At what point did you actually go, I want to launch my own business, and why did you make that decision?
So after becoming a chef, fully qualified, I was working in a few different restaurants and running them as head chef. And you see the sort of level of work that you do as a leader in a business. And I thought, if I'm doing that for someone else, why not do it for myself? And that's when I thought, let's give this a crack.
So you had a taste of actually basically running the restaurants and things like that.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So and dealing with all the staff and things like that. Even though there's a whole load of different level of responsibilities having a business, I still had that desire to push and open up one.
So you actually started the business at 22, right?
No, so I had my first at 18. I bought my first shop at 18. I was 18 and a half. I tackled that. So that was my first one in Ashfield or Bayswater. And then a few years I sold that, and then I moved on to up here in Connolly, and that's when I started the Romano's brand at 22.
Yeah, right. So because you were 22 when you started that business, did you find that you faced unique challenges because you were relatively young starting out?
Yeah. So age was a huge thing, because trying to get a lease to any shop at that age, people sort of turn their nose to you as if this person doesn't know what they're doing. And then obviously secondly is the money. Not many 22-year-olds have the money to be able to buy into sort of businesses at that sort of level. When I first started, the only way I could get into was through vendor finance. So what that is when the seller of the business wants out of the business. Now, this could be desperate times, not well, business not going so well, and they actually finance you the money to be able to get into the business. So we have an agreement between two parties where we settle on this amount for the business, and I pay it back monthly with a small interest to the old owner, which is still a better rate than what if you got a loan from the bank, and if the bank would even lend you it to start with, because that's the hardest thing, is the banks will not lend you unless you've got equity. And if you've got equity, why not just use the money themselves?
At this point, you actually own 2 stores under the franchise. But what were some of the obstacles you faced when you first opened the Connolly store? So you touched on that, getting a lease. That was a big obstacle. But were there others involved when you actually first opened the store?
Yeah, so the lease is always the main thing, and then I've got obviously funds as well. But as I was looking into the store when I first bought it, it wasn't doing too well. So you're going into a business where it's already declining in sales. So you need to tackle that, and hence of can you get this business back on track? You got to have a lot of belief in yourself to do it.
Get past that point,
if you truly believe in what you can do in within business and your product and yourself, you can make it work. I still remember my first Friday night. It was busy, and I had this customer come up to me while I was making pizzas at the front. And he said to me, there's been a lot of people come through this shop. I don't think you're going to make it either. Now he's a regular customer every week. He gets the same pepperoni pizza. So it just shows that, like, people will put you down. People will say, oh, no, you don't know what you're doing. But if you truly believe in yourself, give it a crack.
Yeah. It's probably worth noting for some people that the reason I know Laurence is I actually worked for Laurence in the Connolly store when it first started.
That's correct.
And I actually remember when you first came in, when you were in the process of actually buying the store, and because I was working for the previous owners, of course. And I was at the back doing dishes, and I just remember you being there, and because you were fairly young, I was like, is this guy working here? What's he doing? And why isn't he helping me? I'm just doing all this work, and he's just standing there. But yeah, and you ended up buying it and kept me on as well. And I remember that first Friday night as well, and it was hectic. It was incredibly busy. And me actually being in the store before that, and I remember all the different, because I've lived in the suburb, I remember all the different stores that came through, and same like you're saying, it was like known as the Doom shop. Yeah. And like, so you have a quick turnaround of someone would be there for a couple of months, then it'd be closed, and next person would come through. Yeah.
And like on that subject, when I purchased that shop, I was only in there for within a week. I got really sick with pneumonia, and I was in hospital for 2 weeks. So my wife had to go up there and put a sign on the door saying we're new business opening again soon, refitting out basically. I remember laying in my hospital bed, and my wife and myself just looking at each other going, what are we going to do? We've just spent all this money on this business, and now we've got to close. And the key thing about when you're taking over a business is people see change. People don't like change. And here we are now closing it down. So literally, I know at that point I was going to be in hospital for 2 weeks. What is there going to be anything to come back to when we open up? And lucky enough, the community got around us, and here we are today.
Yeah, it must have been quite scary in that first situation, especially if you're closing down. You're just wondering, is there going to actually be people at the door when you first open? Yeah. So that's a challenge to face. So moving on from that, it's often said that the first year of business is the hardest. Were there some days or even weeks during the first year that you found especially challenging? Obviously, the beginning, like you said, but were there other points further on down the track that you would say that you remember that stick out in your memory that were particularly difficult?
Not necessarily. When we got back in there and I guess you could say push hard with advertising and things like that, we were able to control the situation. We had to do what we had to do to get the word out that yes, we are open. We're back. It's a new business model where we had delivery, where the old owner didn't do delivery. So we had different things to sort of bring the customers back. Back when I first opened, there was Facebook around, but we weren't on Facebook. It was still those early stages, I think, for business, and especially for a small business like us, where we didn't use that. So we did like flyer drops and things like that to be able to get the people back into the centre and coming through with us. one of the obviously the biggest challenge is probably the staff. You know, when you first open a business, even for myself, it's a new environment. I've been a chef for a while now. As you move into a new kitchen, there's things in different places, and I obviously can't do everything in the shop. So you have to have the staff trained to be able to cope for those busy nights when people come in. The worst thing you can do, and I see it all the time in when new business opens, is that people don't put enough staff on at the start to cope. That's one of the biggest mistakes you can ever make. If you don't have enough people to serve the new clientele, you're just going to annoy them straight away.
And they don't want to come back after that. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So that sort of leads me on to a different question. Because like you said, the people you employ and the team you actually have underneath you is really important. What are you sort of looking for when you trying to employ people for your team, and how important is that structure for you, having that support base? So they can...
That's a good question, because having you're only as good as your staff, so you have to have a certain level of respect given back to your staff. So in terms of training them and making sure when they come in they are confident. Keeping in mind whenever you're starting a new business, your train of thought is you're going to be busy. If you're doubting yourself already at the start, saying, oh, why not be busy so we won't put as many staff on, you're already going backwards. So from the get-go, we're going to be busy, we're going to do this much, I've done my research, we need to get this many staff to be able to cope, we need the staff to be able to do this, this and this. Can they do it? You know, can they answer the phones confidently? And I've seen a lot of people over the years where they're just a little bit too shy, or just a little bit too early to do that face-to-face interaction with grown-ups. So staff is a key issue in all businesses, not just food. I mean, I specialize in the food industry, but I could see it across any market that staff play a big part in what happens within the business.
Yeah, because like you said, you can't do it. Like, it's not possible for you to do everything, so you need to have people that
exactly.
And I know at this stage, obviously, you like it's in the early days, you would have been there every single day, every single hour, like taking care of not only the like sort of broader business side of things, but also the day to day, like, you know, preparing food and things like that. You know, but whereas this stage, I assume that you sort of focus more on the broader stuff where you rely on people to manage the more day-to-day side of things. So how did you get to that stage?
So once again, it gets to that point where I can't do everything. So I'm lucky enough to have a manager with me for the last 7 years now. He's Ben. He started with me back over in Connolly, just as a driver actually. And we trained him up to eventually he moved over to Ellenbrook with me, and he's managed there since, and he's still with me today. We've recently just taken on another sort of senior staff member to sort of get more closer with myself and help me with the company's expansion. So that's given me the time to be able to step back and work on a few other things within the business, because it has to be sustainable. If you think you're going to be working in the business 24/7, you just end up burning yourself out. You burn yourself out, exactly, and you're better off probably just working for someone else. Because by the time you weigh up what you can actually really earn by working all those hours, is it really worth it?
Because like even if on the one hand you did have, you're making a lot of money in that area, you got no time to actually make use of that money in that sense. So you got to,
and like all these things can be calculated in when you're opening your business. Like going back to now rent, when you open a business, it's all about negotiating the rents that you do. You see so many businesses for sale, and I bet if you went in there and asked them, it's probably because they're not making money. And the key thing would be because they've just gone and signed any rent. Big shopping centers these days are asking for massive amounts of money, and they lure you in by saying to you, for instance, Jeremy, I'll come in here, you got all this passing traffic, we'll give you $150,000, $200,000 for your fit out, but your rent's this much. Now they mind trick you by giving you this money, but little do you know that if you sell the business within probably the next 5 years, you do actually have to pay that money back. And then you're going to be out of pocket anyway. These big centers, they will lure you in with these sort of funds, and I just think people really need to make sure they check they're signing, get legal advice. Don't just look over. It might cost you $1,000 to get a good lawyer to read through your lease, and they'll be able to indicate where the options are. Once you've been in business a few years, you have a good, you better probably read over it yourself. Even myself, when we're looking at different stores, we get approached all the time by the big groups wanting us to go in. We recently got one from up in Butler. As soon as they said to me, the lease will be the standard, I won't say the group, but their group lease, I just walked away because you cannot change it. And they want to see every single little thing about your business. And it's just a way of them being able to put the rent up. When your lease is up in 5-6 years, in this sort of market, you can really negotiate your rents, getting rent free. Rent free from when you open, not from when you sign the lease. So always double check those little things because they all play a part. If you can get 6 months rent free, that money you were going to pay on rent, you can have that extra staff when you open, so you can keep the customers satisfied.
Yeah, so you can get and actually build up that base early on,
exactly.
And then you can focus on that later.
And like I said, the biggest thing is making sure you don't get that rent free until you open. It could take you 3-6 months to open your shop. Then you've used all your rent free for your fit out. You don't want that. You want your free rent free for when you're actually trading.
Yeah, ticking over into that time. Yeah,
you'd be amazed what it could do.
So bottom line, it's worth researching all the different possibilities you can have.
The biggest mistake. I've had some friends recently lose their restaurant or have to walk away because I believe they didn't do the proper research that's needed. Signed leases that are too expensive, rent that's too expensive, in a way that, for instance, in the food game, in the restaurants, to recover that sort of money every week, how many tables you need to turn over, how many staff you need to turn over those tables. I don't believe the proper research was done, and unfortunately, that's when people can lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. I had another friend that lost a bit of money in a different food game, and it's sad to see, because people put all their hard-earned money into it, and if it's borrowed money, it's even worse because you've got to pay it back. You can walk away from the business, but the banks will come after you, so you just have to be very careful. Tread carefully, but for $1,000, get a lawyer to look over it. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah, definitely. Sort of going back to early on when you first started, were there some moments that stuck out to you that really motivated you? Like when you things might not have been going so great, there was something that happened to you that you're like, okay, no, I'm doing the right thing. Let's keep going. Let's keep pushing on.
Yeah, so obviously good feedback from your customers. You want to get as much feedback from your customers as you can. I mean, this day and age with Facebook, there's no reason why you can't get any sort of feedback. Even bad feedback is still good feedback. There's no such thing as real bad feedback unless something seriously has gone wrong. But then you take different action to sort of resolve that. But getting people to tell you what they sort of like, what they don't like, and you can do this in various different ways without even customers even knowing. You could be trying something different, and it's like when I changed something within my pizzas. I remember the next day I was standing out the back with one of my suppliers, and we're just chatting. And a customer who lives across the road, he comes in every Saturday night to my Ellenbrook shop, and he come back and goes, "Oh, Laurence, that pizza last night was beautiful." It was because I changed the way we sort of lay a pizza. There's different ways you can do it. And from there, we actually stuck to that system, and now we continue that on now. And so you can try little different things, and some people might not like it, and you can always adapt and change things back. But you have to step out of your comfort zone and try new things, because that's how you get confident in moving forward. If you just stick to the same old thing, you're never gonna. You're always gonna be stuck in a rut.
Yeah, right. So, how much time would you say you have spent on the product, like even on the early stages? Like, is it, even over the years, like you said, you've changed things, but originally, like the like sort of recipe, so to speak, of the pizza, like how much time did you spend on nailing that down?
Quite a while. Like you could say quite a while, because as I've learned different recipes from working in the industry, and even people I know in the industry, people that have had pizza shops for 30 years, I learned different things from them of ways of doing dough and how long you should let it prove for, or where you should let it prove, what you should add into it. Last year I went over to Melbourne to a pizza shop over there who's won all sorts of awards in Italy and things like that, and I had a meeting with them, and they gave me some advice on tweaking some things of what to do with the sauce and things like that. So we're still tweaking things today. I think that's why we're so successful, because we're constantly keeping up with the times, you could say,
it's always a work in progress.
So at the early stage, a little while, we didn't get it right straight away, especially with the dough, but we worked on that, and here we are today, Yeah.
So like you said, it's a work in progress. You're not like, you didn't make it and go, okay, that's it, I'm done with it. I'm never changing it again. Like this is the way it is. So
you have to adapt, because like even opening a new shop, people are like different things. Some people like cheese on top, some people like cheese on the bottom, like extra sauce. And at the end of the day, there is no way anyone in business can tell you that they're going to satisfy every single person that comes through the door. If you think that, you're going backwards, because you're not going to satisfy every single person. Everyone's taste buds are different. So you're always going to be adapting to make sure things are right, and you're going to get it 99%. There's always going to be someone that's not going to like it, which is fine. It's just because someone says, "Oh, they don't like your product," doesn't mean it's a bad product.
Yeah, just that particular person doesn't like
exactly.
it. Exactly.
And I've had people come into my shop actually, and they're like, "Oh, we like it cooked like this." And straight away, I know they're after a wood-fired pizza. So I'll tell them there's actually a wood-fired restaurant up the road. Feel free to go there, because I even said to her, what's the point of me taking your money when you're not going to be happy?
Yeah,
I can see the way you're wanting me to cook it, and it's not sustainable for me, because we run a conveyor system where the pizzas run through, and she wants it put back in. So for us to do that, we have to hold back multiple orders for this one pizza. And it's not going to be what she wants.
Yeah, even if you do make all those allowances.
Exactly, So you always try and accommodate, but if someone's really after something in particular, it's good business to help other people as well. So, you can always do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually quite a humble way of looking at it, as I suppose. Like, you're not petty, like, oh, I'm just going to keep them here, like I want to keep this custom here. No, you're like, no, like, here's what you want. This is where you can find it. So.
That's it. We've got other competition in Ellenbrook and Connolly, but at the end of the day, we're Romano's Pizzeria and I'm Laurance Romano. So people will come and see for me and my product. A pizza shop can open next door. People say it's competition. Oh, look, you might lose a couple, but at the end of the day, people want what I bring and what we bring as a brand. The Domino's is rumoured up in Ellenbrook to be one of the busiest ones in the state, and we still hold our own up there. So you just stick to your guns if you believe in what you do, and people will come.
Yeah, and like, do you find that you yourself, obviously because it's Romano's, and I guess it's like every Italian man's dream to open a pizza shop named after yourself. Do you find that like you are obviously a big part of the brand, so people come to not just for the pizzas, but to see you? Like, it's that actually plays a part in.
Yeah, it does, but over. This is one of those tricky points where you have to sort of cut the line per se, because if you brand everything to yourself, when a customer comes in and don't see you behind the counter, they get a little bit arky. It's like I went to Jamie's Italian restaurant when he opened here in Perth, and I went in there, I was like, I'm paying this sort of money, and he's not here himself. We don't really go back. We've only been a couple of times, but you got to be careful of how much you brand it to yourself. Unless you're a huge, big brand, but someone like myself, we're still a very small fish in a very big pond. But you just have to be careful of where you brand, and that's what we did up in Ellenbrook. Connolly was very branded to myself, and a lot of the customers know me. I still walk around the area, I walk through shops, people come up to me. And I was in Woolies the other day buying some steak, and a customer tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Oh, is that for the pizza?" Unfortunately, I didn't actually know the gentleman's name, but people do recognise you. So when we opened Ellenbrook, that's when we brought Ben over, and obviously now with Neil, and people still see me there. I'm still there all the time, but they deal with the day-to-day things for me, and I'm working on the business, not necessarily in the business 7 days a week.
I guess, yeah. So how do you sort of tiptoe that line then of it being, Romano's and not just like Laurence's like shop. Like you still like having a presence there, but not overshadowing the whole, like what the brand really is.
Yeah, it's just certain things of what you can do within the shop, and with your managers, I had this for a long time of me trying to do every single little thing and not letting the managers do what I pay them to do. So I'm still there. This might be in the background. I'm still making, instead of me up the front making the pizzas, I could be taking a delivery, I could be rolling the dough, I could be washing the dishes.
Right.
I still get in there and wash the dishes.
Your presence is still there, but you're not telling everyone what to do at that particular time, and just letting them do what you've trained them to do.
That's correct. And even if I'm not there at night time, I still have the cameras on my phone. I'm still watching them, and I message the managers and things like that if I don't see something right. So I might not be in the shop, but I like I tell my staff, it's like Big Brother. The boss is watching.
Big Laurence.
The boss is watching. So and they all know that, and I'm very lucky to have the staff that I do. So I'll say that all the time. And no matter what I do, I praise my staff because I believe we've got one of the best teams around.
Mm. On that note, like even when you're not there, do you sort of struggle to really step back? Like, do you find yourself having that at the back of your mind, like that, the shop's running at this night, like what's going on? Like, is everything okay?
Yeah.
Like, do you find that hard to actually, when you're not working at the shop, to actually relax? Like,
it's there's no way anyone can tell you that when they've got serious money invested in a business that they can just switch off and go on a holiday and things like that. It's there's no way that's possible. Recently I was over in America for this conference, for this new thing I'm doing at the moment, and I'm constantly looking at my phones, and to do with the time difference, I was up till 1-2 o'clock in the morning watching, just making sure I couldn't switch off and sleep, and throughout the conference during the day, I was, my eyes would go, well, if I was falling asleep as I was walking around, and but no, you can never switch off, and to be honest, I never want to. My managers tell me all the time, you've got to stress less, the place will still be, but when someone's got money on the line and not necessarily something that we've built up from nothing, it wasn't a business that we bought that was making money. I've never bought a business, and I never will buy a business off someone that's wants money for goodwill of what they've built, because I believe I can go into any business and I will turn it around. So we put a lot of our time and energy at the start, so it's hard to sort of let go. So, but you can never switch off. That'll never happen in my world.
Because like you said, like it is sort of, it's still your business, your name out there. Like it's your reputation.
Yeah, it's your baby,
Yeah.
And business is cruel. Business is very cruel. It can be good one day, and the next day, we know it long enough. I know roughly what sort of customers are going to come in the next few weeks, but things can get messed up. Things not doing right, staff not checking things properly, having things neatly in the call room. Twice a year, you get the health inspector out. Regardless, they will rock up no matter what. We actually pay for it. Every food business in Perth pays to have the health inspector come out. People will walk into a shop and see a health inspector there. I think something's wrong. It's not. It's actually, we actually pay them to come out. It's the law. It's $300 a year. I actually think that's criminal, but it is what it is. And it's good because it keeps businesses in check and to make sure that places are clean, But yeah.
So you ran the Connolly shop for how long?
It was about nearly 2 years,
Yeah.
and then I opened Ellenbrook.
Yeah. So when you moved to Ellenbrook, was it difficult stepping out of the comfort zone of what you'd built up in Connolly and starting not completely from scratch, but starting a new shop?
Yeah,
like from scratch. Like, was it hard, considering that it was a different suburb and everything like that? Was it difficult starting that up?
Yeah, it was. And like I said, that's another good point, because in business, people often have very successful shops and they think, oh, we can mimic that. Yeah, we can open up here, open up there. But what people got to understand is, as soon as you go to a second shop, you can only be in one. And that was my big, that was one of the big things that we really thought about at the start, what if something went wrong in the other store, where I can only be in one. So yeah, that plays a big part, you know, and that's when it comes back to your team and having the right team around you, and doing that. So yes, that's the biggest thing I'd even say to anyone has a really successful business and they want to open more. Just always think in the back of your mind that you can only be in one place at one time. You can have the best managers in the world, but gastro will get everyone. You know, if gastro went through someone because they were out on a holiday or came back and sick, and then do you have enough staff to really cover everything? Because like I said, you can't split yourself in half. So we made sure from that point we had extra staff within Connolly, and then making sure I've got enough staff in Ellenbrook. And that going back to that point of me not branding it so much to myself, you know, still knowing that it's me and my product and what I bring as a businessman and a chef to the industry, making sure we got enough staff to cover and people see other people making, not just me. All trained by myself. No one makes any pizzas in our store unless it's trained by myself. So when we decide, we're going to move someone else up, we don't change our pizza makers around very often. There's virtually the same few people that make it. So we have 3 main people in Ellenbrook that make, not including myself, 2 managers and 1 other staff member that is trained to do pizzas. We let other people have a go during quiet times, but it's while next to one of the trained staff. So, so we make sure we made adequate amount of staff to be able to make sure, someone's sick, someone's gone away on holidays, we can cover it.
And I guess that comes down to, like you said, the planning and the making sure you know. Doing your research, knowing exactly what you're going to need. One of the biggest phrases you'll hear is, if I'm working it, it's free. But if it's free, like there's no such thing, because you've got to be paid, you know, and it's got to be sustainable. If you want, would you work for someone else for free? Yeah, it's like it's your time and your labor.
Exactly. So you have to allocate, into your pricing of all your products, is that you have to be paid. If you get sick and you can't work, someone else is going to have to do that. So if you price it on basically, I'm doing it, it's free. That silly quote. You're definitely going backwards there.
Yeah,
so
that's a good.
And moving up into Ellenbrook, it was an empty shop, so that had no trading. Whereas Connolly at least was a business; it was just a run-down business. So we took a big risk, and it was a totally different demographic of customers. So in all my 3 stores, I've tried 3 different demographics of customers. So doing my research on the clientele in the area, it's totally different to Connolly. It was totally different to my very first shop. So we did take a big risk, and before I even opened Connolly, my wife had a restaurant in the area, and I said, we'll probably never have a takeaway here because we don't think it would work. Little bit, no, it's one of the busiest stores we've had. So just stepping out of your comfort zone again and taking that risk, calculated risk. Do your calculations. Is it going to be worth your investment? And go from there. There was 5 or 6 other pizza shops there at the time, and one of them rumored to be one of the busiest Domino's in the state. So, we took a big risk, but once again, I believe in what I do and what I bring to the business, and here we are today.
So on that, it's been coming on more than 7 years now that you've been running the Romano's brand. What would you say is the highlight so far of your career?
Seeing us grow, we really have grown and come from nothing, my staff that I have around me, we always tend to have really good team members that love being there and actually really supportive of myself. They believe in what I sort of bring to the brand. And love seeing me in there and all that, Like I said, I still get in there, wash the dishes. If it's a pile of dishes, I don't leave all the dirty, so I'll get in there, do the cleaning, scrubbing the walls. Like they see me, I always hear of business owners not doing much in the businesses or ordering things around, but I love getting in there and doing things and showing the staff that, if you don't do it, I'm not going to get you to do something that I don't do.
Yeah.
So
that's actually one of the things I admired about you. Like you didn't mind getting your hands dirty. It was like, it was almost like you're on the same level as everyone else in the shops, just because you're the boss.
Yeah.
Like you like you said, you wouldn't ask anybody to do something you wouldn't do.
Yeah, that's it. So it's all good. You got to treat your staff how they want to, and how you want to be treated. I was lucky enough for the brief time that I was working for someone. I had really good bosses who treated me with a lot of respect. I ran this one restaurant in Dalkeith, George, and he was a great boss. Treated me well. He himself got in there and did the work. He wasn't shy. So it shows, what I saw from that led me to sort of where I am today. And even working when I actually worked for my wife when I was an apprentice. Her and her stepdad had a restaurant up in Ellenbrook. And even himself was always in there working all the time. So seeing
so that's
him
something something you sort of took on yourself.
So way I see, if I can motivate my staff, that's an achievement on its own. I often get staff saying, "Oh, we wouldn't mind opening a shop or just a business in general, not just a food shop, like opening their own business in media or whatever." So that's the biggest achievement of all is the success that we've had within business and still the growth that we're having. And then, having some wonderful staff along the way. Can't complain.
This is sort of the flip end of it. I mean, we all fail in our lives. Can you think of some moment in the business that you think you failed at?
We not necessarily failed, because we've always grown as a business. I've always tried to. My wife will tell you I've got a million ideas, but I always say, I only need one. I only need one to work. I come home with all these ideas, and my family's probably heard of all my famous ideas, even friends, But, back when I first started, I did things a little bit different. I was young, I went into that business thinking I was going to make all this money overnight. It's still a profitable business, and I still sold it. But, I would do something slightly different in terms of like the way we set up things and staffing. I staffed it differently at the start than what I would do now. So not necessarily anything I regret. I don't regret anything. Like I am who I am today, and I have the business mindset from what I've learnt. You learn from your mistakes if you make anything. Making a mistake isn't a bad thing. You will learn from that. You won't go spend that sort of money on that, or do a promotion that you probably shouldn't have, or So you learn from some mistakes. So a mistake isn't a bad thing. Look at it as a positive because you will learn not to do it again.
So like going from that, like if you were you're 22 again or whatever, like and you're starting the business, what would you do differently? Not necessarily too much, saying that going back to Connolly, for instance, when we opened that, I really branded that too much as myself. I was the key. Only I could make pizzas. I wouldn't let anyone else make pizzas, I probably should have let some other people come in so I could do different things as well. I mean, there was one point where over in Connolly, because we did pasta there, we cooked pastas on the spot, So I was running from making pastas, coming back making pizza, and some of the staff just sort of staying around. So I tried taking too much control, and I guess anyone would do that when they got money on the line. They want to try and do everything, but unfortunately you can't. So if I had my time over again, I'd reassess the staff that I had at the time and who I hired and what jobs I could have given them differently so you could
free me up,
delegate a bit more.
Correct. Still be in that business, still be working, but have a different line of staff that could sort of do different things to sort of free me up a little bit instead of me running around crazy, from the back end of the kitchen to the front making the pizzas, So I'd change that.
Sort of focus more on like the structure of
correct.
staff and everything. Yeah. They say behind every great man there's a great woman. What role has your wife and more broadly your family played in your business career? So
here's a good question. So everything I do and I've done is for my wife and now my two young girls. It's all for them. If you ask anyone from when I was a young, a teenager, I always said, when I get older, when I have a wife, when I have kids, I want to give them the lifestyle that they sort of truly deserve. it's like an old soul, I've been told. So she plays a huge part because you have to be on the same page. And she supports me with everything that I do, all my crazy ideas, and even some of the new things we're working on now, within the growth of the business and some of the wholesaling move. She's behind me 100%. So you've got to have that. And she's a businesswoman herself. So she understands what it takes to sort of drive a business. And she allows me to do that, you know.
So like it's like, you know, your wife and your family is like a huge like motivating factor for why you keep going. And
yeah, that's it. You know, like I wake up to do what I do every day to, you know, in this day and age, unfortunately, our kids will find it tough when they're older. In 20 years' time, who knows what the future is going to hold, what house prices are going to be like, you know, what jobs are going to be available. So it takes a huge toll on myself and any person in business, you know, not just in business, people that are working, you know, they've got a family to support. Things are really tough at the moment. So having a strong sort of relationship really helps. If we went on the same page, then it would be totally different. Would I be where I am today? Probably not, you know, because she keeps me motivated. She allows me to do the things that I need to do. So, yeah, by having a very good relationship, which I'm lucky enough to have, I'm able to do the things I need to do.
What does the future hold for Romano's Pizzeria? What do you sort of have planned down the road?
So we're working on a few things at the moment. Like we've wanted to try and expand our brand for a little while now. We're going to try and kick that off again. We've got a team of people that are working on that at the moment. I've got a conference next weekend. They're going to give me an update of where we're sort of at. So we want to hopefully at the start of next year open up some more stores. And we'll see where we're going. I'm working on another thing at the moment. Still early stages, so we'll get back to that when that sort of kicks off. Still within the pizza, still within the brand, but this will actually help other people in the industry because a lot of suppliers are taking the mickey at the moment, and we're going to try and change that. So we'll see where we're at.
Brilliant. So you got exciting times ahead for you.
Yeah, exciting times ahead. We've got a few things planned. And, you know, this is where taking on Neil plays a big part within my company because it takes that little stress off me having to sort of deal day to day with the staff. If someone's sick, can't make it in, things like that. So he deals with that end of the business for us.
And you can focus on more like big picture, like expansion sort of
that's
things.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know, I can go in there for a few hours at night time, do what I need to do within the shop, and then still work on the stuff I do during the day. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. So I've just only got one more question, Laurence. What's your favourite pizza?
Everyone asks me that, you know, because
it has to be asked, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like I like a meaty sort of pizza, like mine's the Western style, and I'll chuck some barbecue sauce on that. You know, like everyone says, people really like pineapple. I mean, I buy pineapple by the pallet load. So yes, people do like pineapple. Unfortunately, pizzas today are made to suit the Aussie clientele, you could say. Yeah. You know, if I served the actual traditional Italian pizza, people would bring it back to me and go, "What's this? Where's the top?" I'm still hungry after three pizzas. So, end of the day, like people want a good quality pizza for a reasonable price to feed the family in this day and age. It's hard in this day and age. The bills are expensive. Everything's expensive. So if I can give, and this is my quote I've said all along, a restaurant quality meal at takeaway prices, who wouldn't want that? So that's what we deliver. Even our prices now, I haven't put my individual prices, small, large and family prices up since I opened in Connolly. They're still exactly the same. So yeah. That's what we strive to do, is to make sure we give that good quality, and we'll feed the family for that $40 mark. You know, you go to a restaurant, that's one steak. You know,
if you're lucky.
So yeah, there we are.
Brilliant. Thanks for
Jeremy.
coming in.
Thanks. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, gotcha.